Well, hello again, it's Friday and here I am. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite pastime activities and why I love it so much. Shooting macro. Well, I'm Filip Smeds, a freelance photographer from Helsinki, Finland. Today I'm going to talk about why I love to shoot macro. And of course, gonna tell you about the gear I use. One thing I really love about shooting macro is you don't have to travel anywhere. You just put on your shoes, take the camera with you, and go outside in your backyard or out in the park. There are parks everywhere in the big cities, and you will find something interesting to shoot. They're full of small flowers, insects, and other small stuff that you can get really interesting pictures of when you're shooting up close with a macro lens. And then when you're out in the park, don't mind the other people there. They will look at you, but hey, you just lay down, take the shot you want, and don't think what other people will think about you. They will maybe laugh. People have been really laughing at me, but hey, that's the nature of the game. You have to do whatever you have to do to get the picture. Don't think about what other people think about you. My favorite thing to shoot with a macro lens, that's bugs. They're small here in Finland, so you can't see them really well with your naked eye. Well, you can see the bugs, but not the details that you get out with a lovely macro lens. So when you shoot it, you go up really close, you can see the eyes, the wings, the coloring. Some of them are quite hairy as well. But you will see everything with a macro lens that you can't see with your naked eye. And that really intrigues me because they're actually quite out of this world. Some are quite alien-like, some are quite lovely, beautiful, some are disgusting. But that's not the point. The point is you get all the details out with a macro lens. That's what I love. And one of the best things is, of course, being able to go outside, enjoy the nature, have a lovely time outside in the sun. It's really relaxing. This I'm most probably going to say many times in this video, but shooting macro out in the nature, it's all about nature's small details. You find a dead flower, for example. It's not that good looking, but then when you go up close and shoot it with a macro lens, you can get some really lovely details out of it. Like I like to say, lovely dead crap. But there's no restrictions what you shoot as long as you get out the small details. If you think it's lovely, if you think it's nice, shoot it. Just shoot it. And now I'm gonna start to tell you how I shoot macro, what gear I use, and give you some hints to get better at macro shooting. Well, A lot of people use a tripod when shooting macro. In some cases it's really good. You have their camera really stable and nothing will move. But I shoot live bugs, so I shoot handheld. For me, it's much easier to move the camera a few millimeters, half a centimeter, something like that, when I'm shooting and the bug is moving. You should really try it out. It will be much easier to shoot live bugs handheld. And one other thing that's really important when you shoot macro is extra light. Because of the shallow depth of field, you have to really step down the aperture. I usually shoot around f11, f14, and I don't want to bump up the ISO too high. So I use a Nissin MF18 macro flash. It's really good. Two different flashes. You can turn one of them off. It's a ring flash. You can set different settings on both of the flashes. So you get really natural light and you get extra light really close by. So without that, I wouldn't be able to shoot. Well, actually, without extra light, I wouldn't be able to shoot nice macros. This just makes it easier. When I started out, my first camera only had a pop-up flash. I didn't have anything else. So I made from a Pringles jar a snoot for the pop-up flash to direct the light where I wanted it. Worked really well. Then I got a speed light. Well, I needed a Pringles jar snoot for that as well. You can find a lot of different tutorials making those out on YouTube. So I won't talk that much about that. But now I use the Nissin Macro Flash and it makes life really easy. So remember, extra light is your best friend. First, I'm gonna give you a few tips on how I shoot macro that makes macro shooting a little bit easier. And then I'm gonna talk about the lens I use, the Tamron 90mm 2.8 macro lens. I talked about it in last week's video about when I was shooting food. So you will find a link to that video below in the description. First tip when shooting bugs. Never ever block the sun, because the bugs will feel the temperature change and they will walk away, fly away, however they move, but they will go away back to the sun. They're really, really good at feeling the temperature changes, so never block the sun. And the second tip is, because you want a 1-to-1 ratio when you shoot macro. 1-to-1 means that if the bug is 2 centimeters in real life, it will as well be 2 centimeters on the sensor of your camera. So I always put my focusing on the closest distance, and then I start moving closer to the subject, and I will see when I am at full macro at 1-to-1, and then I start making the focusing from there. So I know I always have a macro, not a half macro or something else. Remember, shoot 1-to-1 ratio. So then about the Tamron. It's a 90mm macro, and when shooting bugs I wouldn't go under that, because if you have a 40mm macro you have to get too close to the subject to get a 1-to-1 ratio. So with a 90mm macro it's about 30 cents and you're at the closest focusing distance, and that won't disturb the bug so much. But if you have to go closer than that, they will get afraid and fly away. So that's again one thing I love about the Tamron macro. And the image stabilization in the macro lens, in the Tamron macro lens, is really fantastic. It gives you up to 5 stops of stabilization. So you can shoot handheld really easy. Well, this is why I love to shoot macro. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoy shooting macro as well. If you shoot macros, please comment below with your Instagram account or web pages, wherever I can find your shots, so I will go and check them out. And hey, this was this week's video, and see you next Friday again. Bye bye.